Hello dear friends, today we will discuss Salesforce Connect. Agenda of that video is in the following. Explain what Salesforce Connect is. Describe two typical use cases for Salesforce Connect. Explain how Salesforce Connect differs from ETL tools. Explain how external objects differ from standard and custom objects. Create an external data source in our Salesforce org and specify how to connect it to external system. Validate the connection to external system. Sync to create external objects that map to external system schema. View the external objects. Configure an external lookup relationship. Configure an indirect lookup relationship. Customize the display of external data. Enable record feeds for an external object. Show external data in the Salesforce app. Salesforce Connect is a framework that enables you to view, search, and modify data that's stored outside of your Salesforce organization. For example, if you have data that's stored on the premises in the Enterprise Resources Planning System, in short words ERP, then you could connect it with Salesforce. Instead of copying all of the data into your org, you can use external object to access the data in real time via web service callout. Salesforce Connect lets your Salesforce org access data from a wide variety of external systems in real time without writing a single line of code. Salesforce Connect maps data tables in external system to external object in your Salesforce organization. External objects are similar to custom object except that they map to data located outside of your Salesforce organization. External object data is always up to date. Salesforce Connect provides a live connection to external data rather than a copy that to consumer storage and must be regularly synced. Accessing an external object fetches the data from the external system in real time. Salesforce recommends you to use Salesforce Connect in the following situation. If you have large amount of data that you don't want to copy in your Salesforce organization. If you need small amount of data at any one time. If you need real-time access to the latest data. If you store your data in the cloud or in a back-office system but want to display or process the data in your Salesforce organization. So let's now compare external object with custom object. External objects share much of the same functionality as custom object. For example, you can do the following. Access external object via the list view, detail page, record feeds, custom tab, and page layout. Define a relationship between external object and standard or custom object to integrate data from different sources. Enable chatter feeds on external object pages for collaboration. Enable create, edit, and delete operation on external object. If you need frequent access to large amount of data, please note that ETL might still be your best option for optimal performance. External objects are not a replacement of the ETL. They are complementary approach for accessing external data that provide a great benefits, including seamless integration with the Salesforce platform, including Salesforce platform APIs, mobile chatter, and other features. For example, external objects are available to standard Salesforce tools such as Salesforce App, Global Search, Social, and SOQL queries, Apex, Visualforce, IPs, change sets, and packages. Here is a quick comparison of the features supported in the external object and custom object. So, first of all, data is stored in your Salesforce organization. It's true for custom object, but it's not true for external object. Read. You can perform read custom object and external objects. Write. We could write into custom object without any problems, and we have some limitation on external object write, but it's possible to have that option. Tabs layouts are supported for both types of objects. Visualforce the same. Field level security also supported. Sharing. Sharing is accessible only for custom object, but not exist for external objects. REST and SOAP API available for both. SOQL. We have no limitation on custom objects And we have limitation on external objects, social, search and social. Yes for custom object and yes pass-through for external object. Formula fields available on custom object but not yet available, as well as workflow and triggers on external objects. Reports and analytics at this moment available for custom object but partially available for external objects. And chatter is totally available for custom object but no field tracking for external objects. Let me share some example of the use case of usage Salesforce Connect. Suppose you have product order information stored in external database and you want to view those orders as a related list to each account record in the Salesforce. Salesforce Connect enables you to set up a relationship between parent account object and the child external object for orders. Then you can set up the page layout for parent object to include a related list that displays child records. What types of external connections supported? To connect to data that's stored on an external system, Salesforce Connect uses one of these specially designed adapters: OData 2.0 adapter or OData 4.0 adapter. They allow to connect to data exposed by any OData or 2.0 or 4.0 producer on the internet. OData, its Open Data Protocol, is a modern REST-based protocol for integrating data. Vendors such as SAP and Microsoft have already implemented OData support, so products such as NetViewer and SharePoint are directly accessible. Integration products from Salesforce Partner extend the reach of Salesforce Connect to much wider range of back-office systems. Another available adapter is Cross-org adapter. It will allow you to connect the data that's stored in another Salesforce org to your Salesforce org. The Cross-org adapter uses the standard Lightning Platform REST API. It directly connects to the org without the need of an intermediary web service, as in the case with OData. And one more possible adapter is Custom Adapter, created via Apex. If the OData and Cross-org adapters are not suitable for your needs, develop your own custom adapter with Apex connector framework.
Now let's jump to overview of setup. Setting up external data integration with Salesforce Connect involves the following high-level steps. First step is create the external data source. If your external system hosts multiple services, create an external data source for each service that's required to access the data. Create the external object and their fields. It's a second step. Create an external object in your Salesforce org for each external data table that you want to access. On each external object, create a custom field for each external table column that you want to access from your Salesforce org. Here is a note. If the external system allows it, we recommend you to synchronize the external data source to automatically create related external object. You can instead choose to manually define external object to customize the external object names and manually create the fields, but in general it will be better to use automatical way. Step number 3. Define a relationship for the external objects. So we could create lookup, external lookup and indirect lookup relationship fields to provide seamless view of data across system boundaries. Step number 4. Enable user access to external object and their fields. Grant object and field permissions through permission set or profiles. Step number 5. Set up user authentication. For each external data source, that user per user authentication, do both of the following. First of all, enable user to authenticate to the external data source. So grant user access through permission set or profile. And the following is set up each user authentication settings. That means you need to tell your user how to set up and manage their own authentication settings for external system in their personal settings. Alternatively, you can perform this task for each user. Let's connect an existing data to .0 data source that is publicity available. To do that, from Setup menu, we should find the following item, external data source. When we will get that page, we will need to click on button New External Data Source. Let's click on it. So, as a name of our new external data source, we could use the following, order DB. As a type, we should use the following. So, in case that our publicity available OData service is working based on OData 2.0, let's select this item here. Later, we will need to set up the following URL. It's URL to our publicity available system. So let's leave remaining settings with their default values and click Save. Please note that this database that we're trying to connect is simple and read-only database. So a simple database, so no authentication required. A real external system would likely require some credentials, and you will need to configure Salesforce Connect to use the same set of credentials for all access to the data source or separate credentials for each user. So now we configured an external data source, and we could select tables that we would like to integrate into Salesforce org. So how we could do that? So at this moment on our page we have available button Validate and Sync. So what happens when we'll click on that button? So in that case, Salesforce Connect retrieves OData 2.0 metadata from our simple database and lists the available tables. So here we get a list of available tables. So at this moment we are interested in order details and order. So let's grab those two tables and let's click Sync. What actually happens when we will click on Sync button? Syncing creates the external object corresponding to the tables that we selected. Syncing does not store any data in Salesforce. Syncing only defines mapping to external tables or repositories that contain the data. This mapping enables Salesforce to access and search the external data. So one more note here is that you can choose to manually create the external objects. Doing so enables you to customize the external object names, decide which table columns to create custom fields for, and customize the custom field names. From setup, you will need to enter external object in the quick find box and select external objects. But in our case, we decided to generate external object from provided metadata. So at this moment, we connected the external data source and defined the external object, and now we can view the external data directly in our Salesforce org. So let's click on Orders. So at this moment we could see that Salesforce Connect synchronization process created this external object from external system schema. The synchronization process also created a set of custom fields, just as how we could create them in a custom object. The key difference between external object and custom object definition are in the following. So external object API names suffix have X at the end, rather than C for custom object. External objects have a reference to their external data source and table within that source. External objects have different standard fields, like display URL in the OData 2.0 URL, representing a record in the external database, while external ID is a primary key value for each record. Let's see those fields. Here you could see display URL and external ID. So now let's create a custom tab to easily access the order records. To do that, let's jump to our setup menu. Let's go to tabs. Let's click on New button. Now we should select orders as an object. Let's select some style and let's click Next. Here we should be fine with visibility settings. Let's click Next. So here we also accepting the default tab visibility settings, and let's click Save. So please note that in Salesforce organization you also have another object which is standard with name order, and it have its own tab. So at this moment we will have two tabs in Salesforce organization with name order. Now let's see how we could see orders in our Salesforce organization. So let's go to App Launcher and let's type here orders. So here, now let's change our recently viewed items list view to all, because we did not see any kind of orders yet. So that list was empty. But now let's see what do we have. So we could see that Salesforce Connect retrieved order IDs for the first 25 order records from the simple order database. So also here we could configure the fields what we would like to display on our list view. But let's click, for example, on one of our records. What do we see here? So we could see that here we have customer ID, we have order date, we have order ID, and ship date. So it's important to remember that external data is never duplicated in your Salesforce organization. Salesforce Connect always fetches current data from external system in real time. So now, when we could see our external data in our Salesforce org, we could also link it to existing data by creating lookup relationship. So let's see how we could do it. In Salesforce, we could define three types of relationship for external object. First of all, it's lookup relationship. So link a child standard, custom, or external object to a parent standard or custom object. We can only use this type of relationship if the external data includes a column that identifies related Salesforce record by their ID. If that's not the case, we should use one of the following two types of relationship which are unique to external object. One of them is external lookup relationship. So this relationship links a child standard, custom, or external object to a parent external object. The values of the standard external ID field on the parent external object are matched against the values of the external lookup relationship field. For a child external object, the values of the external lookup relationship field come from the specified external column name. Another available kind of relationship is indirect lookup relationship. What it do? It links a child external object to a parent standard or custom object. You select a custom unique external ID field on the parent object to match against the child's indirect lookup relationship fields, whose values are determined by the specified external column name. So here in the table we could see summarized information about the difference between external object relationship types. So for example, if we will check type of relationship, for example lookup, child object here could be standard, custom, or external object. Parent object could be standard or custom. So, and as a requirement, here we should have external data contain Salesforce IDs. So another kind of relationship is external lookup. For external lookup, child object could be standard, custom, or external. Parent object could be only external. And it's not a must-have for external data to contain Salesforce IDs. Next type of relationship is indirect lookup. Child object here will be only external object, but as a parent here could be standard or custom object, and we should not have external data contain Salesforce ID, so it's not a requirement. Let's now try to configure an external lookup relationship. To do that, from Setup menu we need to enter external objects. and go to that item. So once this page will be loaded, in the list of external objects, let's select Order Details. After that, we will need to click Edit button that will be located near this Order ID field. Let's click on it. So now let's click this button located here at the top of our page with name change field type. So now let's select external lookup relationship and click Next button. So one more time to remind you, an external lookup relationship can link any object to external object. So let's select here orders and let's click Next. So here as a length we should put the following value because it will be the length of our ID, and let's click Next. To make the relationship visible to all profiles, let's select Visible option and click Next. So if it will be your real production deployment, then you will need to carefully analyze which profiles should have access to order line items, but at this moment for my test purpose it's enough. So now let's click Me Save to accept the default options for page layout. Okay, now let's jump to our setup menu, Orders. As you could see here, we have already attached order line items for our order. At this moment we could see that we would like customize a little bit our related list for us to be able to see additional columns like product, quantity, unit price. So let's customize that related list. So here on the page layout for our order object, let's scroll down to the related lists. And for our order details related list, let's click on this icon. So now we would like to add the following details like unit price, quantity, and product. And let's remove display URL. Let's organize our fields here how we want, and let's click Save. Let's click Save button to apply our changes and save our page layout. So at this moment we already could see line item for our order, and next step here will be to configure indirect lookup relationship between orders and account. This relationship enables our user to see which account given order is associated with and all the orders for the given account. This relationship enables our user to see which account a given order is associated with and all the orders for a given account. An indirect lookup relationship model, a foreign key relationship between an external object and custom or standard object. So this time we will set up Salesforce with the following. So our field on external object, in our case it will be customer ID on orders, correspond to unique external ID field on a custom or standard object. In our case it will be customer ID on account. It's an indirect lookup because it's reference a field other than the standard ID field. So how we could do that? So at this moment let's jump to our object orders. Let's go to section field and relationship, and near with the field customer ID let's click our edit button. So here let's click change field type. Now we should select indirect lookup relationship and click next. Let's select account here as was discussed and let's click next. So let's select here customer ID field as a value of target field and click next. So here we should put the following number as a length of our ID and let's click next. So at this moment we would like to just make our relationship visible to all profiles. So let's select visible checkbox here and let's click Save to accept the default. So to test our changes, let's go to Orders tab. So here we could confirm that the order shows a link to the customer's ID field. So let's click on this link. So now we are on corresponding account page. So here we maybe could expect that orders related list should showing up. But if it's not, we could go to our page layout related to accounts, add related list with name orders, specify fields that we would like to see for that related list, apply those changes and click Save button. So right after that we could jump back to our account and refresh the page. Okay, so now you could see that in our Salesforce for account we could see a list of related orders that coming up from external data source in real time, and that data is not stored in Salesforce. And also we could jump to detail page of that order, see list of related items to that order. For example, in our case it will be order line items. And all of this information will provide to the customer very detailed view of our account. But as you remember, at this moment we do not store any kind of those records in Salesforce directly, which is really cool. But let's increase power of our synchronization with external database. So let's enable chatter for external data. For that, let's go to setup and put field tracking, and let's jump to that item. Let's enable feed tracking and click Save. Now let's jump to our order detail page and let's refresh it. So now you could see that we have new functionality here. It's follow button, and also we have chatter here where we could post, pull and ask questions, which it should be pretty cool for you to be able to use that Salesforce functionality for records that actually do not exist in Salesforce, which is really cool. As we discussed in very beginning of that video, one more plus of that kind of integration of usage Salesforce Connect, it's for us to be able to view external data in Salesforce mobile app. Let's jump to mobile app. To do that from our device, we could do the following. So to be able to jump to Salesforce mobile app from our device, let's open Salesforce in a new tab. Let's click on Inspect from Developer Console. Let's change here size of our screen and let's emulate, for example, iPhone X. In our case, let's change location of our console menu. And let's change the URL to just default one and let's refresh the page. Okay, as we could see, our Salesforce One application is loading. Here, let's click on our menu and let's find here orders and let's click on that item. As you could see, we already have in Salesforce mobile app our orders, which is actually coming up here from external data source from in the real time. So let's jump into detail page for one of the records and let's see what do we have here. So as on desktop, here we have linked to our account under customer ID. Here we have list of related items. In our case, it's order details, and also in case that we enable chatter, we have it enabled here as well. Let's, for example, click follow. So after that, we will be able to see order records feeds that were added here, and also we could comment on them as well. So let's one more time go to related list and let's click on order details. Information about all our order details related to our order, which is pretty cool. Now let's also jump to account level, because our main goal was in the following: to have on account object a list of related to it orders from external data source. So let's go to accounts. Let's select Salesforce. Let's go to related list. And as you could see here, we have related list with name orders. Let's click on it. And here we have a list of all available orders from external data source, which is loaded in real time and it's accessible for us. It's with zero extra configuration. So by this way, I would like to let you know that Salesforce Connect is pretty powerful item that you could use for your integration of external data sources with Salesforce with no coding and with simple configurations. And that feature will be available and help you to follow your external data source records, to see those record details in Salesforce, and to be able to connect already existing in Salesforce data with your external data. Thanks for your attention. Please subscribe on the channel and add your comments what you would like to see in next videos. Thanks and bye bye.